And so when we're talking about becoming an enemy of average, you have to know that there's certain components that are built inside of you that want you to go to the next level. And then there's certain things that are within you that want to hold you to where you are, hold you to what's comfortable. There's a part of your brain that doesn't want to. It doesn't want to do risky things. It doesn't want to do dramatic things. It doesn't want to stand outside of the crowd. Oh, there's the crowd. I need to fit in. You're going to have to know when you step away from the crowd, you're stepping away from average. Enemy that you're fighting today is average. The reason some people procrastinate is because they're comfortable with the season that they are just coming out of, and they are comfortable with average. You're not going to procrastinate. You're not going to be the one that's comfortable with average. You're not going to be the one that's comfortable with regular. You are never going to be comfortable with it. God has placed something in you. Power that is inside of you is from a level of excellence that God has put inside of you, and you don't even know how excellent you actually are. The word excellence in the Greek here means to throw beyond someone else. There's an excellence inside of you that causes you to throw beyond everyone else. And the reason you're writing your book and you're doing your TV show and you're writing your song is so that people can have an encounter with a level of excellence that goes beyond the problem. Every story that you read, every song that we sing, everything that we encounter as a television show, it all comes from the fact that someone has gotten up, someone has gone beyond the pressure, they've gone beyond the failure, they've gone beyond the insecurity, they've gone beyond the thing that told them just to sit down and be normal. Stop trying to stand out. No, that person said, I'm gonna break out. And when you realize that's who you are, and the reason you're engaged with that is because you have that same excellence. God has saved you by not allowing you to have everything easy. I know it sounds weird, but you don't get certain muscles until you have a certain level of failure. And that brings us to the first law of excellence. The first law of excellence is the law of failure. You need to know that you're going to have moments of failure where you thought it worked and you thought it was going to work and you thought it was going to turn out the way that you wanted it to turn out. And this is one of the business principles that are so important for your skill set, is that you realize failure is not the conclusion of things. Failure is still the process of success. Where failure is, success is right behind it. You cannot be afraid to try and push. You cannot be afraid to put your idea on paper. You cannot be afraid to stand in front of people and sing your song or declare your speech, or you cannot be afraid to start your movie writing. You cannot be afraid to start your TV show. You cannot be afraid to start your showmaker strategy. You have to be someone that is ready to go forward in failing. Yes, I said it, go forward in failing, because failure is something that's intimidating to an average person. But if you're telling the enemy, average, you're my enemy, I am not going to be afraid to fail. Because if you're afraid to fail, you'll always stay average. But if you're not afraid to fail, you'll break out of average. Average makes an excuse to why they are content with their failure. Average makes a decision. Well, this was the best I could do. This is all there is of me. They don't ever come back with another intent to go to another level. Let's try it again. Let's break through. Let's overcome. No, I am not content. I'm not content, because the goal is not that you would ever embrace failure, but you would know that failure is one of the laws that are necessary, that I own it in order to overcome average. When you understand the law of failure is the first law of the law of excellence, you have to make average your enemy. Average is not in your class. Average is not in your category, and you have to put it in its place. It is not designed for you to be average. Law number two, the law of increase. The law of increase. When you understand that there's a law that is about increasing, constantly going and growing and growing. When you plant a seed, that seed is designed to increase. It's interesting because that seed is not going to naturally multiply itself before it increases. Multiplication, the law of multiplication follows later, but the law of increase. So they plant the seed, it has what the Bible calls increase. That word increase in the Greek is the word oxano. Oxano is the only thing that God has given that causes things to grow. It's the life-giving growth hormone of God. right? And so you want some more growth hormone. You're building greater muscles in the spirit, greater life. You're going to have that oxano that's going to drive increase in you. The beautiful thing about oxano, it's constantly pushing. Do you know humans, mankind, are the only thing that God created that ever decides it's going to take a break on increasing? Everything that God created increases. Everything that God created goes forward. Everything that God created says, don't stop growing, keep on growing. When you realize that everything God is up to is about growing and growth. And you have to understand, you're going to have to work as if it's up to you. Be diligent, be strong in that. And then when you're going along the way, that's the power of increase. Sowing, raise your standards. You have to make sure your outcome is set, and you have to make sure you're watchful and you're working hard and you're watchful over your harvest. The law of the lid. Number 3 is the law of the lid. As you're increasing, you're going to encounter this lid, this place where it feels like you're hitting a ceiling. The law of the lid is another place where your law of excellence is going to be recognized. You don't know you're stepping into another level of excellence until you're hitting a lid. Whatever your lid is, it's your responsibility. This is when you realize your responsibility, when you hit the lid. If you're not hitting the lid, someone else is lifting it for you. Every time I find someone with the lid, they have these 3 things. They're limited because they're indecisive and they're distracted. And when you realize I'm not going to be limited, I'm not going to be distracted, and I'm not going to be indecisive, I'm going to have this lid handled, and that's going to be your solution. You're going to remove all limitations. You're going to interrupt this indecisiveness with decision, and you're going to interrupt your distraction with focus. Having the focus, making sure. Now, one of the things that we must understand about being focused is sometimes being a focused, decisive, freely unlimited person is a monotonous world. It's a world where you do the same thing all the time. People say, well, how could you do the same? Well, I know in order to get this result that I want, I've got to stay on top of this, and I got to stay focused. And a lot of people don't achieve success because they're busy changing up their strategy all the time. And they're always this indecisive. I don't know. I don't feel it today. Well, you have to be decisive, meaning I'm making a decision and I'm sticking with that decision even when I don't feel it, right? Having that monotonous, just consistent, almost boring and tedious system and process and scale that's scaling you up over and over and over and over and over and over. And you know if it doesn't work, it's because it stops producing. Well, that's when you hit a lid. But as long as it keeps producing, you're going to have to stick with it. You have to stick with it. You have to stay in it. Is your lid always around money? Is your lid always around health? Is your lid always when you say this is hard or this is tiresome? Number 4, the 4th law is the law of compensation. The more value you add to you, the more value you add to your clients, and the more value you add to your clients, the more you add to your compensation. Do not be afraid to ask for what you think you're worth. It's extremely important that you get what you're worth. If you don't get what you're worth, you're going to resent what you do, even though it is the right thing you do. You have to bring and make sure you establish the increase that's necessary. Get what you're worth, raise your compensation. The first is the law of failure. The second, law of increase. The third is the law of the lid. And the fourth is the law of compensation. These are all to benefit you in making average your enemy. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate you so much. Hey, if you like this video, you'll also like this video here. And if you want to continue to receive content like this, just go ahead and push the notification bell, subscribe, and then share this. And then we will continue to get the word out and help people understand that God has a plan for them. Using the scripture, we'll go to our next level. We'll build something incredible and make his name great. We'll build something incredible and make his name great.